Welcome to Fugitive Currents on the Network. This is your host, Sher Ali Khan. This is where we trace the cracks where theory meets struggle and where we ask what's been captured, what overflows, and what refuses. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay with us as we follow the flows they can't contain. Today, we follow the financialization of popular life through the debris of neoliberalism. Marx gave us the formula, MCN prime. Money becomes capital when it moves, when it purchases a commodity and returns as more money. So money to commodity to more money. Capital doesn't care about the thing. It cares about the more. The commodity is just the passage. The point is the prime, the surplus. But what happens when the commodity is no longer a product? Not oil, not lithium, not even wage labor in a factory. What if the C for commodity in the circuit of capital is now popular life itself? We're talking about the street vendors in La Salada on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, one of the largest informal markets in Latin America. The migrant seamstress sewing in informal workshops, or the woman in the villa who receives a digital subsidy card, uses it to buy data, gets groceries on informal credit, and still manages to care for children and elders under one roof. This is where capital flows now, not through industrial lines, but through survival itself. Decolonial feminist Verónica Gago's work, especially in Neoliberalism from Below, doesn't ask us to romanticize this. She forces us to confront how capital has been retooled, not withdrawn from crisis, but reorganized through it, not separate from the informal economy, but dependent on it, not outside the state, but embedded in its infrastructures of redistribution and control. Above all, it inserts itself into the domain of social reproduction, the everyday, unpaid labor of sustaining life. Her case is Argentina post-2001, but it speaks across the global South. What collapsed in Argentina wasn't capitalism. It was its legitimacy. The peso imploded. Banks froze accounts. The middle class fell overnight. And people flooded the streets, banging pots and pans, demanding more than just reform. It was a rupture. They shouted, todos. They all must go. A total rejection of the entire political class. Left, right, technocrats, everyone had to go. It wasn't a request. Yet capital didn't retreat. It recomposed itself. It re-entered the lives of the poor, not through jobs or factories, but through finance. This financialization of popular life speaks to how finance descends and moves into the neighborhood, the household, the informal market. It doesn't need to offer formal employment. It offers credit, microloans, prepaid welfare cards, access to digital banking. It captures the way people survive, the way they circulate money informally, negotiate risk, stretch a subsidy, care for families. Finance reads that survival and turns that into surplus. Let's return to the formula MCM prime. Money becomes more money by passing through a commodity. In classical terms, that commodity is labor power or a product. But today, C or commodity is no longer fixed. It is informal labor, state subsidies, community credit networks, unpaid domestic work, migrant remittances, precarious care work, and most crucially, the labor of social reproduction. The commodity is no longer a thing. It is the collective work of keeping life going under pressure. The margin between N and M prime is now made up of everyday endurance. This is the updated logic of extraction, and it's not happening under the radar. It is being administered, managed, and legitimized by states that claim to be progressive. This brings us to the critique of neoliberalism. which has occurred across the global south and even in South Asia and across countries of the pink tide. Typically speaking, neoliberalism is often used as a catch-all phrase, a way to describe shock therapy, structural adjustment programs of the IMF, the so-called rollback of the state. But what we're seeing now can't be reduced to those scripts, because the state isn't retreating, it is being reformatted. And capital isn't outside, it's embedded, infrastructural, recursive. Neo-developmentalism offered a fantasy of reversal. It channeled the nostalgia of the post-war era, of sovereign states managing growth, building infrastructure, planning production, securing full employment. It evoked those centrally planned developmental imaginaries as if they could be revived in a financialized world. But what it delivered was something else, a form of statecraft that governed crisis through inclusion without empowerment and redistribution without rupture. Governments expanded cash transfers and welfare, but routed them through private banks. Subsidies were digitized, tracked, and monetized. The poor were not empowered, they were formatted. They became credit profiles, scored for risks, governed through programmable income. What emerged wasn't justice, it was efficiency. The informal worker became a micro-entrepreneur, and the caregiver became a data point. The recipient became a debtor. The state became a logistical platform, not for transformation, but for the circulation and capture. This is not simply redistribution. It is a new form of extractivism, not extractivism in the mine or the field alone, but in the peripheries of urban life. Not just natural resources, but the unplayed and uncounted labor of reproducing the social. And this is where informality becomes central, not as an exception to capital, but as its latest terrain of expansion. Informal labor is often misunderstood as marginal, but it is actually capital's frontier. It offers low cost, low regulation, and high extraction. It allows the state to appear generous while outsourcing responsibility. It allows finance to operate without guarantees, only speculation, only capture. Neoliberalism from below doesn't mean people choose it. Rather, it means people are forced to live within it, and capital learns to extract from that endurance. It means that the circuits of value now run through debt, care, community, exhaustion, the daily labor of making life possible without pay. Still, the door on politics is not closed. There is ambivalence, which has to be examined. This is where the concept of overflow from Gago matters. Overflow means that even through finance and its ability to penetrate deeply into everyday life, it cannot fully capture or govern it. There is always something that slips, misfires, escapes. Popular economies are messy, contradictory, tactical. They do not align neatly with financial models. People bend rules, share burdens, repurpose systems meant for control. They stretch state programs beyond their terms, collectivize risks, hide transitions from visibility. They do the work of reproduction in ways capital can't fully price. This is not resistance in a pure sense, but it is a leak in the system, a site of excess, something that financialization wants to measure but can't quite. Overflows don't automatically become political, but they can if they're named, if they're organized, if they become the basis for conflict rather than accommodation. The wager is not on escaping capital, but on reactivating struggles within its circuits, to politicize what capital tries to normalize, to recognize where life exceeds value and act from there. Because capital does not just pass through factories anymore. It passes through us, through our survival, our labor, our time, through the unpaid, feminized, and often invisible work of social reproduction. It wants to turn that passage into profit. The question isn't how to escape the circuit, it's how to interrupt its terms and build forms of life that refuse to be rendered as surplus. This has been the Fugitive Currents on the Organic Filaments Network. A refusal to return to their models, a reminder that we live beyond what we reproduce, and not all that flows can be captured. Like, share, and subscribe. More currents are coming your way. Thank you.